Well, hello YouTube. Here we are with a bit of a video. Well, of course, in front of us here we have a SuperCycle Phantom 29 21 speed bicycle. Well, this here bicycle was given to me by a landlord at an apartment complex. One of the tenants moved on out, left it behind. Now, when it was given to me, there were no rims attached to it at all. Now, the story behind it was that somebody had stole the rims off it, and therefore it was more economical just to buy another bike than what it was to put, wheels and tires into this thing. Now, going online, looking at the local retailer, the retail price of this here bike is about $229, which is about right for its component group and things like that. This bike here, of course, is a steel frame, which, majority of them are nowadays. It does have an impact, front suspension fork, which is kind of lower end, but good enough for most riders. A mechanical, non-hydraulic disc brake on the front wheel, which is, nice as well. It has revo shift, shifters on the handlebar, which a lot of these Canadian Tire kind of bikes, have them. Down here, of course, it has a very, very minimal wear on the crank arms at all. So it hadn't seen a lot of riding before the wheels were took off of the bike, whether they were stolen, lost, or whatever. The back derailleur is a Shimano Tourney derailleur, which is again found on a lot of these price points. The front derailleur again is a Shimano derailleur as well. The brakes are an R-Tech, probably they even feel plasticky. They could be really, really cheap metal as well. Which, of course, keeping with the price group, that is to be, expected. So, of course, me being me, the, bicycle part hoarder that I am, I do have a set of wheels in, my collection, with the 7-speed rear cassette as well as the front disc brake. Of course, a simple task just to throw the rims on, adjust the shifting, adjust the brakes, and you got yourself a good bike. However, of course, with the thing being called the Phantom 29, obviously it's not because it has 29 gears. It's not a 29-inch frame, obviously, which would make it like too tall for most riders. What they mean by 29 is it has 29-inch rims, which is more found in the hybrid design bicycles that are kind of like the road bike style, but more of a mountain bike girth to them. I've had 2 or 3 come through my hands in the last few years. Most of the time, they are not fixable because the rims don't stand up to being ridden hard at all. So a lot of times they ended up getting parted out, or I was able to make one out of the 2. So, of course, I slid my rims in here, not realizing at the time that, like I said, the Phantom 29 meant 29-inch rims. I dropped the back axle in the dropouts of the frame, and then wondered why the brakes themselves weren't lining up with the rim. And that was when I realized that the bicycle itself, it was the wrong rim size. It was the hybrid, design. So made me a few calls around to the bike shop and such. They want $35 for a front disc brake rim, as well as between $75 and $95 for a rear rim, and then another 35 bucks for a cassette. For the back, of course, gears, the cassette. So economically speaking, you're pretty much within $40 of buying a brand new bike, and you still haven't touched the wheels or tires. Now, if this was my bike, or I was going to plan to ride it, or a very, very close family member's bike, then okay, we could discuss maybe possibly putting brand new rims under it. But when I'm going to basically fix this bike up just to sell it, there's no point in putting $150 plus into it and then selling it for $60, $70. So unfortunately, this bike must die so others can live. But of course, take comfort in knowing that there are plenty of good used parts on here. Well, the seat clamp, seat post, the seat itself, if you glued that little tear, it would be fine. The cranks are, well, lower end cranks. However, of course, they would work on another bike. The pedals themselves are the cheap plastic pedals, which are pretty much, well, wore out right now. Being the front fork is meant for a 29-inch rim, it's not much good for anything except for another 29-inch rim bicycle. You could pull the stem, the handlebars, the brake levers, and the revo shift, both left and right. They will interchange with other bicycles. And you could pull the back brakes, the half set, because you do find some that have the plastic ones that are broke. These ones here, like I said, they feel cold, so they could be very, very cheap metal. The rear derailleur is pretty much interchangeable between all of them that have the rear hanger. You could take the bottom bracket out, save the bearings, things like that. And unfortunately, the frame itself, won't really work for much of anything else. So it really has to pretty much go for scrap. Now, a guy could probably hang on to this bike for another, 2-3 years if he wants to, in the hopes of coming across another hybrid design bicycle, or having, some more 29-inch rims come into his possession. However, how long do you keep something before you just decide to let it go? Now, like I mentioned earlier, this would have been a very, very easy fix. Just slap a used set of rims into it, adjust the brakes, adjust the shifting, hang a new air freshener from the rear view mirror, and it would have been, detailed for retail. However, like I said, without having, unlimited funds for parts, that really don't make sense to put that into a bike when, as you can see, it's not a new bike. You can see where right here there is, minor scratches, of course, from the cables, which all bicycles get. The pedals have been well worn, so it did see quite a bit of use or so before it was scrapped. So unfortunately, the fate is sealed in this here bike, and I guess it has to go for parts. Now, for those of you that are wondering the process of stripping out a bicycle, there will be a follow-up video where we will take this bike apart. I will drop the fork, take apart the cranks off the bike. If the bottom bracket is not a sealed unit, which it doesn't look in this case that it is, we'll take the bottom bracket out, because those do come in handy once in a while. And we'll pretty much strip this bike down to a, bare frame. But that's pretty much been an assessment of a SuperCycle Phantom 29 bicycle. Again, unfortunately, the cost of parts to put into this bike is worth more than the pretty much economical value of the bike itself. Like I mentioned, used parts could have saved it, but unfortunately, being it's the 29-inch wheel, it will put a wrench into the plans. And as always, thanks for watching Maxwell's World. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.